Hello, I'm Citrus, and you're looking at the high-grade Gundam G40 Industrial Design version. This kit was released in December 2019 for 3,000 yen. As part of Gundam's 40th anniversary celebration, this kit was designed by Ken Okuyama, who is a fairly prolific industrial designer of various trains, cars, and all kinds of things. And despite the high price, this kit has been very popular since release, and many batches of it have sold out almost instantly as soon as they were available. And now we're moving into the build, this time with music from ThorHighHeels' album Positive Yellow, which he has graciously allowed me to use in this video. here's the finished G40 next to the much more traditional high-grade RX-78 Revive. The hand feel, unfortunately, is very flimsy. If I just hold it by the chest and give it a shake, you can see lots of bits sort of just moving around independently on their own. And the biggest culprit of it is the chest, which has this accordion mechanism in it, which lets you do a lot of things, bending it forwards and back, but the little ball joints inside are not super firm. And the KPS, of course, is kind of soft, so I do worry about whether or not this will wear out quickly over time. And the other thing you can see here is that the middle waist section is not secured to anything, and it kind of just floats around on its own. And it's very easy while posing this for this piece to get stuck in positions that will prevent the chest from collapsing back down, as you can see. Weird situations like that. So you always have to be really delicate while you're handling this. Other weird design features include the biceps, which aren't really secured to anything, so they just sort of float and wiggle around. I'm not really sure why these parts don't lock into anything, because there are a lot of situations where you can just sort of get out of position like that, and it looks very weird. Little shoulder vents can move up and down here, and a pretty standard series of joints here. This shoulder joint can move forwards and back like this. I'm not exactly sure what that really accomplishes, because it doesn't really give the shoulder more motion inwards or outwards. It just sort of lets you position the shoulders more forwards or back. And the leg, very nice 180 bend with only a single axis. Pretty similar story up with the arms as well. Keep in mind that if you don't paint this, this is all sort of just like a white blob, and it doesn't look very nice when it's folded. Have the middle axis here. Really nice ankle bend. You have 3 parts in the foot. And unfortunately, just like the real grade RX-78, the ankle is only attached to the heel, and it's nice that the toes can bend up and down a lot, but even in their closed position, they're not super stable, and trying to stand up the figure is kind of a pain to get everything to line up correctly. Now you'll see I've avoided talking about the hips, and this is easily my biggest problem with the design of this whole thing. So Ken Okuyama obviously borrowed from like traditional Gundam design to inform how this looks. And the idea as an industrial design version is that he would incorporate a lot of industrial design concepts to make a more realistic Gundam. However, for reasons I don't understand, he decided that it was imperative that the waist skirts are one piece, because in the 1979 anime, the waist skirts weren't made of separate flaps that would go up and down. I don't know why he thought that would be a realistic touch to maintain, and I don't know why that was one particular aspect he felt of this kit that had to be anime accurate. But the workarounds to make this happen, I mean, sure, on one hand it is ingenious. So you have the hip joint that can slide down like this, which a lot of master grades can do, and it can further do this and slide down even further, which is very impressive. But what ends up happening is there's no peg that holds this piece in between together. So you can see the seam line here, and over time, as you move this, this will split apart. And sticking it back together means you have to take off the legs, squeeze it back in, and put the legs back on, which is kind of a pain. But the other thing is, if you want to have the legs come out and forward any further than this to do an upwards kick, you have to do this. And then you can do that, which looks really... I mean, obviously from some angles it looks better, but the fact that the legs distend themselves from the torso looks really awful to me. And really, they don't look good in any position other than when they're basically just up here like that. So I suppose if you can get over this weird design quirk in this waist, you will probably find this mechanical design much more palatable than I do. And on the back, we have beam saber handles that can flip upwards, which is fine, and thrusters that can come out and flip up like so. I have to say my favorite part of the entire kit are the hands. The hand sculpt this time is absolutely amazing, and just putting a little bit of silver really makes them pop. The wrist joints are a little bit flimsy, but given that you don't really get any heavy accessories for this kit to hold anyway, I don't think that's much of a huge problem. And the head is very emotive, although it's got some, again, weird things. Kind of looks funny from some angles because of the articulation it's supposed to accommodate. For example, you can look up really far, but if you look at the neck from the side, you can see it's basically only attached from the back, and it's very thin. So very emotive, but only looks good from certain angles. Very strange. Overall, it feels like there were a lot of compromises made to the design intent of the original schematic, and it just feels so weird. A major omission is the lack of any 3mm ports on the entire finished model. So if you wanted to put this onto an action base, you have to use a U-shaped bracket and put it into the hips, and that's the only way to really hold it up. The U-shaped bracket is notoriously unsecure when, on the back of the waistskirt, they could have just made maybe this piece removable. Actually, no, this is removable. So they could have even just hidden a hole somewhere back here, and then it would have been perfectly fine. But now you have to compromise how you display it, and given how loose and flimsy the whole thing feels, and here we go, the waist separating again, I don't really know. It seems like it's almost good for standing up in like the one pose, and that's basically it. My overall impression of the G40 is mixed, to say the least. The design is already divisive enough as it is. Although it's not the ugliest RX-78, it definitely isn't the prettiest in my book. There's some justifications that Ken Okuyama gives for his choices in his documentary and in the book, and I do agree with them in general, but I don't think an RX-78-like design was necessarily the best place to apply those concepts. As for the actual execution of Okuyama's design, I can't say that I'm not disappointed. There were so many facets of the mobile suit that he had designed, and I think that had this kit been given a higher budget than just a high grade, those things could have been implemented. This could have been a new real grade with more mechanical detail, and it would have felt like, in my opinion, a more complete package. As it is, the sort of mid-tier, high-grade kind of packaging with so many missing colors and features just feels like kind of a lazy nostalgia cash grab, even though the design behind it had so much effort put into it. The lack of mechanical detail on the outside, given the size and the grade, just makes this whole thing look kind of boring without painting and detailing. It's just really sad that the box and the book feel super premium, but the kit itself doesn't feel all that special.
Perfect! Perfect! Kit. Double KO.